guys, welcome to Geopolitics. This is, of course, Gene. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share the video, get notifications. I usually stream nowadays, okay, so I don't do a whole lot of pre-recorded videos, but I thought today's topic was pertinent, urgent for me to address in a pre-recorded video. If some of the data I have gets updated and it's more accurate in the future, I will either redact or do an updated video of this format. So the Syrian civil war, everybody thought it was over. It looks like it's back on, although historians will probably look at this as the pre-December ousting of Assad and then post. So even though it's the Syrian civil war, it's a totally different part of the war now. So the old leader of Syria, Bashar al-Assad, left in December. He was forced out, mainly by rebel groups going under the banner of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, who are a known affiliate of al-Qaeda. Now, you're going to see a lot of people online, a lot of Sunni Arabs, other Muslim Arabs, and non-Arab Muslims saying, well, wait a minute, not every rebel was al-Qaeda, not everybody's ISIS. So that's an Assad trick to make you think that there can't be a genuine revolution. Let's be honest here. There were some genuine rebels in the beginning, but they never had the success of the terror outfits. That's why very quickly, after a couple years of the civil war, they just melded into one another. You even see many of the so-called pseudo-secular people of the Free Syrian Allegiance, Free Syrian Army, and other groups affiliated with that saying, oh, why do we tolerate al-Qaeda in our midst? Because the West is not helping out. So they're giving this excuse that, we can have al-Qaeda, we can have these groups here because they're fighting Assad better than we are. And we need them to fight Assad and to free Syria, essentially. So they're giving a justification. And so during this time, there is a demarcation, there is a distinction between some of the original rebels and then the terror outfits. Now, al-Jolani, or al-Shara, whatever he wants to call himself, the current leader of HTS, aka the new government of Syria, comes from that affiliate of al-Qaeda. Now, he said, I was young, there weren't any other opportunities. Socioeconomic factors forced me into Islamism. But the issue is, we already have admittances from the other rebel groups stating that they were fine with having al-Qaeda in their midst. Okay, we already know that they were okay with it. So this idea that there were no other choices, even if there were other choices, it wouldn't make a difference because they're going to ally with al-Qaeda anyway. Now, ISIS has mainly been defeated or had been defeated and was laying dormant. They're already growing on the eastern border of Syria. Okay, so where the border is with Iraq, the Iraqis are already reporting that Daesh is back and they have to go and fight them. So the past weekend, Alawites, an ethno-religious group similar to the Druze, have been being massacred, right? They've been slaughtered on the coast of Syria. Tartus, Latakia areas where they are the majority, or at least the plurality, or in almost every village and city there. So this began with some ex-Assad loyalists beginning a coup of sorts, and they drew the ire of HTS. Now, obviously, do we consider it unfeasible that HTS, aka the Syrian government, the new Syrian government, are not going to fight back when remnants of the old government that they destroyed are fighting? Obviously, they're going to go and fight them. So the debate is not about should they go fight ex-Syrian Arab army officers, whatever. That's not what the discussion is. So if you see it framed like that online, that's not accurate. That's not what Christians and Alawites and Westerners are talking about. They're talking about the fact that despite there being a real legitimate reason for the Syrian government to go to the coast, there are and there have been in the last few months extremist factions within this government. Okay, so maybe there are people in the Syrian government that aren't all fanatics, but there's a substantial number of them, large enough number that they are running around committing ethnic cleansing, and Jolani's either unwilling or unable to reel these people in. Okay, he goes to a local mosque, not even the Grand Mosque, not even the Umayyad Mosque in Damascus. He goes to the local 7-Eleven mosque to declare the revolution came from this hood. Like, what is that? He's talking about this hood. Why doesn't he go to the Umayyad Mosque and make a grand declaration with the bolstering the authority of Islam? But he doesn't. He doesn't want to use the name of Islam to condemn the attacks that are happening. So he goes to some local mosque, and 99% of people aren't going to be there. There's not going to be a large crowd. In any case, families, men, women, their children, grandfathers, etc., grandmothers, have been humiliated, tortured, and killed. Okay? They have been destroyed. The women, some of them have had their clothing ripped off, humiliated in the street, and then executed. Old men executed. Children executed. All mainly because they were Alawites. So Bashar al-Assad, the old leader of Syria, was part of the Alawite ethno-religious group, an offshoot of weird Shiite Gnosticism and other beliefs, of syncretic beliefs in the Levant, some Christian stuff as well. Most Alawites are not dogmatically Gnostics or anything. They're really just kind of like a weird cult version of Shiism. In any event, like the Druze, they only exist in Syria and a couple other countries in the Levant. That's it. They don't exist anywhere else. So this is it. Now, Assad, the whole Assad dynasty, starting with Hafez, the father, they were Alawites, but their top brass were not Alawites. Hafez al-Assad, he had all of his surrounding officers were Sunni. His doctor was Sunni. He trusted his life when he was afflicted with an injury or with sickness. He trusted his life and the life of the country in the hands of Sunni Arab Muslims. So these reprisals are built on fantasy. It's not historical. We have these fanatic guys who are either ex-ISIS operatives, current ISIS operatives, or Al-Qaeda operatives going into Alawite and Christian homes and executing people out of revenge for what the Alawites did. It wasn't the Alawites, okay? It wasn't just a bunch of Alawites killing Sunnis. The Syrian Arab army was majority Sunni Arab Muslim. The leaders were majority Sunni Arab Muslim. The Alawites were overrepresented because they're only 12% of the country. So they had obviously more than 12% of the seats of government. But they were not 99% of the government. They were not 99% of the military. The people fighting were Sunni Arabs, and they had to be. There aren't enough Alawites to constitute an entire military like that. It would make no sense whatsoever. So this idea that the Alawite, they need to have revenge on the Alawite, it's not true. And what on earth did the Christians do? Absolutely nothing. At the absolute worst, Christians declared that they supported Bashar al-Assad. Some Christians did. Okay, well, declaring support for somebody is not the same as barrel bombing your village. So I don't understand. If the vengeance is we have to take out the Alawites because they barrel bombed the village, number one, it wasn't the Alawites doing it. It was secular Sunni Arabs. Number two, the Christians aren't involved. So why are Christians being decapitated and humiliated and slaughtered? It makes absolutely no sense. To make matters worse, a lot of these Takfiri people, these Wahhabis, whatever you want to call them, are not even from Syria. And it's not like they're from neighboring Lebanon and Jordan and Iraq. We can maybe excuse that. That's a little understandable. The borders of the Middle East are quite fluid at this point in time, i.e. they don't really mean anything. However, you have people coming from Afghanistan, from Pakistan, from Western China, Xinjiang, Uyghurs, okay, other Turkic peoples, people from Africa. Why are people from all across the world, Chechens, Dagestanis, joining a Syrian military governmental operation and then fanatically attacking Alawites and Christians for no reason whatsoever? That's the problem with what's happening, okay? It's bad enough. It would obviously be no better if native Syrians were doing it. But the fact of the matter is they are foreigners. Okay, here's this video by this Algerian jihadi.
انه خلاص سامحناكم اخوه في الوطن، ما في اخوه في الوطن، ما في اخوه في الوطن، مسألة عقيدة ولاء، البراء والولاء، ما في اخوه في الوطن. والله ما دمتم يا ايها النصارى ترفعون الصليب في دمشق، وايها النصيرية تقوموا والاقليات تقوموا بفوضى في سوريا، والله لن نترككم وسنجاهد فيكم باذن الله عز وجل. عادي 20 سنة زيادة ما تمشي، ما خاصني ولا شيء. ونسأل الله أن يتقبل بالذين غدرتم بهم هؤلاء الشباب، نسأل الله أن يتقبلهم الشهداء. الله أبو أحمد الجزائري يحييكم من سوريا.
Saying, as long as the Christians raise the cross, we will never leave you. Like, what is this, slam ballad poetry now? As long as you raise the cross, we will always be with you. Like, what is that? Okay, and then you have this video of a woman, Palestinian Syrian woman, living somewhere in Europe, I think either in Denmark or Germany, saying, we should slaughter the Alawites and leave their corpses in the mountains so nobody can say that the dog starved. And another guy said something about, throwing their bodies to the sea so the fish don't starve. What is this? All right, humorous and ridiculous as the language is, they're calling for the genocide and ethnic cleansing of different denominations. And this is not historical Islam. Okay, so hey, far be it from me to be an apologist for the Islamic religion. However, this isn't historical Islam. The Ottoman Empire, was that 100% Sunni Muslim? No, the wealthiest areas were Europe, which were majority Christian. Okay, The Janissaries were Christians who became Muslims. Some of them didn't, some of them did. There you go. Smyrna and other cities within the Ottoman Empire had a majority or plurality Jewish population, followed by a huge Armenian population and then a huge Greek population. The Greeks were so numerous in Asia Minor that a large portion of people who call themselves ethnically Turkish are in fact Greek when they take a genetics test, or Iranic, depends on where in either Asia Minor or Anatolia they live. Regardless, there were Christians in the Ottoman Empire. There were Jews in the Ottoman Empire. There were Shia in the Ottoman Empire. Obviously, there were times when the government cracked down and oppressed them and treated them terribly, but they never wanted to, up until the very end, they didn't try to erase anybody. Then they tried to erase the Armenians and they completely broke with their tradition. Their tradition is not about erasing everybody. Al-Andalus, that's Catholics, okay, or like proto-Catholics, some Aryans and stuff, whatever, Jews and Muslims in a civilization. Where are we getting the pure Sunni ethno-state? Are you telling me that for all of history, none of the great Islamic civilizations, none of those great Muslim leaders were able to achieve the pure Sunni ethno-state until a bunch of guys in 2025 doing ISIS TikToks? That's the real religion? Because that's the problem I'm having here. Like I'm looking at history and there's no pure Sunni state. You can say that there were pure Catholic states. The Catholics were very effective at making everybody in their countries Catholic for the most part, up until the Reformation. There were pure Orthodox states, okay, before the Ottoman Empire. There were not pure Sunni states. They always had the minorities. And I thought that was one of the great claims of Islam, that when they took over towns, they did not erase the people of the book, that they allowed the people of the book to exist as not quite the same status as the Muslimin, but that they could exist. So why is it now that Syrians need a pure 100% Sunni state? How will that help them? How are Christians and Alawites living in the coast doing damage to Syrian society? I don't understand. Like, all the great caliphs and leaders were not able to get rid of the Alawites in the coast, and their empire survived just fine. So why is it now we need this? If you want to know, the truth goes back to European ethno-nationalism. So after the fall of kind of traditional religion, i.e. Catholicism, in most of Central and Western Europe, what took over was racialism. That was the new religion. And so a country was based on one blood, one language, usually, and one religion. So, for example, Austria or Austro-Hungary is going to be a few different ethnicities in an empire, and the religion is going to be Catholic. Then when they became their own nation states, it became one people, one religion. Ataturk copied this concept for Turkey. Everybody's going to be Turkish. Everybody's going to speak Turkish, even if they're actually Greek or Mongolian or whatever, it doesn't matter. You're all going to be Turkish. You're all going to speak Turkish. You're all going to be Muslim. Now, granted, Ataturk was essentially an atheist. He didn't really like religion, but he knew he wasn't going to enforce atheism as law. So he made the government officially secular, but everybody, regardless of secular government, their identity, their culture was Muslim. So Muslim culture, Turkish language, Turkish people. That's a European ethno-state in a Muslim country. Now Syrians are trying to do the same thing. Or maybe it's not Syrians, maybe it's Algerian jihadis, maybe it's Jolani's international connections. Either way, this is not historical Islam. It makes no sense whatsoever. So we already have the Iraqis are announcing that they will punish anybody who is pro-Jolani. And you already have the conflict is spilled over to Lebanon, where Alawite Lebanese and Shia Lebanese, and probably some Christians too, are taking their anger out on the Syrian refugees there. Because many of these refugees are the people who fled Assad and may or may not be pro-Jolani. This is a whole mess. Now people would say, well, what about the Israel situation? Is Israel involved? What do they gain? I say they gained substantially from this. They gained from the Druze. Recently the Druze said they didn't want to be part of Syria. They claimed they wanted autonomy, they wanted to be pro-Israel. So they already had a victory there. And now the same thing they're going to do with the Alawites. Oh, look, the government's terrorizing and destroying all the minorities. We have to go in and destroy them. Now, granted, there are a lot of Sunni Syrians who are saying the same thing on the internet. They're saying, oh, Israel's going to take advantage of this. Be that as it may, doesn't mean it's not happening. This stuff is still happening. These people are still dying. So maybe if you guys prevented that, Israel wouldn't have a reason to invade the country. Do you ever think about that? And a final note, I think that these events and what happened in DR Congo, where over 70 people were decapitated for being Christian by some substrata of ISIS, goes to show you, if you are ignorant of history, that you can't do comfortable, complacent, post-secular Western Christianity. That's not real. Okay, in real life, there are people who probably want to cut off your head. And you're going to have to do something about that. You're going to have to defend yourself. And just as important as that, you're going to have to prefer your tribe above another tribe. You cannot do absolute universal morality in real life. See, all these guys on the internet, on Twitter, talk, I'm an Orthodox Platonist, I'm a Universalist. David Bentley Hart just sat on my couch. Say, all this theology is great and all, but you don't live in real life. You live on the internet. And when you're on the internet and your concept of culture and civilization history is just reading books, okay, I read books too, but guess what? I also live in real life. You just read books and you just sit in your room all day at your desk and you go, I've achieved enlightenment, okay? That you don't know what you're talking about. You cannot practice that level of abject universal morality and pacifism in real life. So I get very angry with these people, because these are the types of Christians whose disgusting ideology is now passing on to Christians in what we call the third world, who think whatever Europeans do, that's Christianity. In the past, that was true. In the past, Europe was the majority of Christians, and they were Christian. But after the 1800s and maybe late 1700s onwards, you can't trust anything coming out of Europe. You have the Enlightenment, before that you have the Renaissance. These are not ideas. The Orthodox Church, by the way, anathematizes both. You cannot be a Renaissance Orthodox. You cannot be an Enlightenment Orthodox. Go read the Greeks. Go read people on Mount Athos. None of them say that it is acceptable for you to take Enlightenment theology. Humanism is not Orthodox, end of story. The point is, you can't trust what's coming out of there. And so you have these defenseless and uneducated people, Christians in sub-Saharan Africa and the Middle East, who are in precarious positions. They go online or they listen to their pastor, their priest, their leader, who gets all his information from the liberal West. Well, the liberal Western Christians don't fight for themselves. They don't believe in Christianity. And Islam is clearly doing whatever batshit crazy civil war is going on. So we Christians don't believe in violence. And that just means we're not going to arm ourselves. Other than the Maronites and some of the Assyrians, that's pretty much what every Arab Christian or Middle East Christian ethnicity has done. And it's been an absolute disaster. You have to defend yourself. In order to love God, you have to hate evil. In order to love God, you have to hate what God hates. And God does not hate anything. Okay? There are things God hates. God does, in fact, hate evil. And in 2 Chronicles 19, verse 1 to 2, it says, you cannot love people that hate God. I don't know where these Christian universalists are getting their crack from, but it's not from the scripture itself. Okay? So unless you're Marcionite and the Old Testament is just nothing to you, then it's impossible for you to sit there and look at me seriously and tell me, yeah, I don't believe in fighting people. I don't believe in defending Christianity. I don't believe in hating evil people. You have to love everybody. That's what the religion is about. It says right there, if you love people who hate God, you suck. I mean, that's what the passage is saying. Like, you suck. If you love people who hate God, you are trash. This is scripture. Okay, so even if you're not a Protestant, you don't think the Bible floated out of heaven like a Quran, fine. But this is scripture. Like, you cannot love people who actively hate God. Now, people who are kind of dumb and they don't know better, you can try to educate them. But as it says in Matthew chapter 18, after you've given someone a couple chances, that's it. Like, you don't got to spend your whole life apologizing for people who want to cut your throat open. Right? So Christians are never going to achieve anything in places of the world where they aren't the majority if they don't buck up a little. Does that mean running around decapitating people? No. But it means that you need to be able to fight. And that's it. So, brutal as that may seem, welcome to real life. Of course, prayers with all the people, the innocent children, grandfathers, etc., who've died. And even the Sunnis, there's a serious problem with the Syrian government. And there's a serious problem with these crazy terrorists who are from different countries, don't even belong in Syria, decapitating 90-year-old Alawites for no reason. That's all I got to say. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and to any future employer watching this video, the most gruesome things I said were obviously sarcasm. All right, thank you guys.